Welcome to Rauta. This is Inferno Festival 2022. As you probably know, we're in Oslo, Norway. And thank you, dear Patreon supporters, for making this trip possible and, as such, making these interviews possible as well. Now, this time we have a band from Germany, the infamous country for many, many high-nose crimes, so you all know you're gonna hate this band. Oh, jokes aside, we're just fucking with you. This is Dark Fortress from all the way to 1994, so almost 30 years in the business. Lots of albums, good stuff, melodic, kind of atmospheric black metal even, a little bit of a hint of progressive. Why I'm telling you this? Because you're supposed to know it already. These guys are fantastic, they're fun, and they're good on stage. So I'm more than happy to have these guys here for a little bit of a chat. Let's start introducing these guys. The vocalist, Mr.
Morian.
And then we have the dad of the band, like he probably described it. No,
I think our other guitar player is the dad of the band.
Yeah, so you're the mother.
Yeah, no, he's captain of the ship.
Captain of the ship.
If you want to say so. Well, I'm V Santoro.
Okay, so lead guitarist and vocalist. This is all we need to have. Nobody wants to talk about the drummer or bass player anyway, so we can skip at that. So
I like talking about drummers, to be honest.
To be honest, of course, me too. Just joking aside.
But who cares about bass players?
Yeah, exactly. That's the everlasting joke. Never gets old. Bass player gonna be upset, but we can deal with that. Yeah. So guys, you just played a good show. You basically opened the stage for this Saturday when we're filming this. You are going to watch it on Tuesday night or whatever. So guys, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, the show was not bad, I think.
Why being so modest?
Well, I have to say the routine is a bit lacking. Obviously, I think that's a common problem of every band at the moment, that there is no routine when it comes to playing live. It was the first show in a very long time. I mean, actually, we've been lucky enough to at least that we had one show this year already at the end of January in California Death Fest.
So they had to suffer from the rustiness, and now people are getting the better ones.
Yeah, even though I didn't feel that rusty.
No, just joking.
No, but the thing is also, now we are playing with Hannes Grossmann on drums, and he had his arm broken. So we had one more show with our original old drummer, Seraph. And so now, today, everything is new again. So kind of a new or a different lineup than last time. And of course, you always have to get used to that a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
And I think basically I'm happy with the show, but today I had the weird thing that I was a bit tense or like nervous. Which is a normal thing before a show. Yeah. Usually I lose it after the first song. Today it never went away. So I was not entirely happy or satisfied with my own performance. But other aspects, I think the energy was good, and I had a fantastic sound on stage. So I also hope it sounded good outside, but I'm pretty confident about that because we have a kick-ass sound guy.
I was paying attention especially to the difference between faster parts and slower parts. And especially the slower parts, you know, there was more room for the guitars and drums and bass, like kind of a breathing and have the clarity. But faster parts maybe could have been a little better, but that has been with a lot of those bands, so can't really complain.
That's in the nature of it.
Yeah, that's the nature of extreme metal especially. But it seemed like the more that you played, you kind of got more energized during the shows. Yeah. I don't mean that you were like rusty or anything like that, but it was like building up like as it was a kind of a climax, as if we were having sex already. So everybody knows that.
That's also, that guy also had a similar perception. Also had like the reaction of the audience. That, I don't know, somewhere at the middle of the show or like the fifth song, like we got them. Like in the beginning, they were more listening.
Yeah, there were people pouring in like, slowly.
We got more energy back in the last 2-3 songs. I think it built up nicely. Yeah. So let's say the show ended on a high note.
Yeah, good. What about you? You were very energetic and talking to the audience, speaking the songs in, and you were clearly, it seemed to me anyway, enjoying the show and feeling the energy.
I had a blast, and I don't care about the places that I fucked up because it just felt fantastic, and it's our first time that we play on this festival, and it's amazing. I mean, great stage, really nice crowd, fantastic sound. Just what usually never happens is that you feel like everything's as it should be. So now it's just up to you, and there goes your mistake. But it just feels so good to be back on a stage and to be doing this thing, because I mean, we were all sitting at home for 2 years now, and we couldn't. I mean, we are. We live from music. Like everything I do in my life has to do with concerts. So if there are no concerts, it's all a little bit dry. I wrote a ton of music, and I played, to myself for 2 years. But the magic that comes when you get together with people, whether it's your bandmates or there's a public, there is no replacing for that. And for sure not fucking Zoom or living room concerts. There is no way to, I think, reproduce or simulate that particular magic. You need to get together. You need to haul all your shit somewhere. You need to practice. You need to curse. And then you are there and all boils down to 45 minutes of something real happening. And this is really like rain in the desert. It's so I had a fucking great time, and I'm just humbled and grateful to be here and to get to do this. So I'm happy.
That's good. Talking about audiences, I mean, like, people in Nordic countries are maybe a little bit more reserved versus more like mid-Europeans. Especially Germans are known to be crazy, like whatever goes on stage, like and throwing the beer and stuff like
where you play.
Yeah, I guess.
It really depends on the city. It can be. If you do a European tour or something and you play a couple of shows in Germany, it can be like so different from city to city. Sometimes the energy, and sometimes you feel like, oh man, this is a difficult, cold crowd, and then the next day it's like
police. I have the habit.
You know that black metal cliche. That
I'm one of those cliche guys.
I'm a bit like that also when I'm in the audience. I can't even blame people for
because at least in Finland it's kind of like habit. I'm having a fucking good time. I'm enjoying it. I'm not showing it.
We have never played in Finland with Dark Fortress, which is really a fucking bummer, which should happen at some point.
I totally agree.
I mean, I had some shows in Finland with Crypticon, and I remember the first time we played with Crypticon, that was in 2010, I think, at Jalo Metalli.
No.
Fuck, that was one of my favorite shows of my life. And that crowd, that reaction, I mean, if I think about it right now, I get goosebumps because it was so energetic and so people were so into it. And so I also think that Finnish people can get very, very enthusiastic and passionate.
Especially after a couple of beers.
After a couple of beers, that's the thing.
We need our lubricants, basically.
But like most crowds in most countries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the kind of a lubricant of the whole social thing and making relaxed.
It takes some time before you realize you are allowed and supposed to have fun now.
It might take a little bit of time to warm it up and get it erected.
Yeah,
that's the theme of today, it seems.
Okay.
Joking aside, once again, how would you describe your music? I already did my part of describing it, but obviously from an artist's perspective, it's a little bit different. So, like your sales pitch in a sentence or two, how is Dark Fortress going to be described to the audience who have never, for some reason, heard it?
I would simply call it a black metal band, emphasizing that we are also a metal band and not just like playing soundscape, vacuum cleaner. We also have like palm mute and some thrashy riffs. So I think we are really a metal band, but I think our music is really dark.
Yeah, that it is.
And kind of, it's not warm. I think it's pretty
kind of icy.
Kind of icy, exactly. I mean, we have a song called Isa, which is, and I mean that icy theme was generally a big theme on our last album. So I think that's, if I would have to condense it down, I would say we are black metal and.
All right.
But first and foremost, I would say a metal band.
Yeah,
and this is because I joined only in 2007. So I knew them before as an audience member and a friend, and that was the first thing that I noticed, that it's mainly a metal band, because it's what Victor says. It's not just 2 chords and makeup and whatever. I mean, we have 2 chords riffs and fucking makeup, but it's.
I guess you're a little bit more heavy metal inclined in that sense, like going back to traditional rather than the super raw stuff.
Well, our roots, I mean, I've known this guy for 30 years, and I've heard his very first riffs that he ever played, and I know exactly where we're coming from. And for example, one super important influence for both of us was Slayer.
Yeah.
And I think even if we wanted to, we couldn't take that out of how we define metal and what we like about it, because it's in our bone marrow, man.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So, just you always got to do what excites you, right? You're not doing this for somebody else because then you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
You need to go for the maximum pleasure that you can create, in a band and for everybody else. So this is an important part of it. And the other more philosophical aspect of it is that black metal is all about rebellion and stuff, supposedly. So what good is it to have then a bunch of orthodox douchebags telling you, okay, black metal is still here, but you cannot go out, you cannot sing over a blast beat, and you cannot have palm mutes, and you cannot have a clean part, and you cannot have anybody that actually knows how to play. Fuck that shit. I like.
It's too narrow-minded.
Exactly. For me, it is the antithesis of the freedom that everybody in that very tiny slice of cake of all music professes to stand for, freedom and liberty. I mean, what good is it to preach freedom if you're trying to be more Catholic than the Pope at the same time?
Like putting you in kind of a small jail box.
Exactly. But I mean, for whom? Who cares? That's just really in the head that you think like, oh, what am I allowed? Which ideas am I allowed to have? I mean, what the fuck is that?
Now you make it sound like somebody has made those accusations. Am I correct?
It's more. I mean, the thing is, we have always a lot of friendly people around us, and it's not something personal. It's more that because I'm a bit older than them. So to me, black metal was under the sign of the black mark. I was 16 years old, changed my life, loved it, and then later Emperor and everything, of course, also came and impressed me. But I didn't grow up with this cult about black metal because there was just like...
Are you basically saying, we're Norwegians, we created black metal, and we set the rules and everything else. Everybody else in the world is like yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. And because to me, it was just a very personal thing. I remember when Under the Sign of the Black Mark came out, the review in Metal Hammer was like, there was one guy who liked it, everybody else was like, what is this shit? And I think the Hellhammer story of Tom is very similar. Like he came up with something truly original and everybody hated it in the beginning. It was the same with Arnold Schönberg, who changed music forever 100 years ago. It's a recurring pattern actually. And so for me, when I got closer to Dark Fortress, I realized there's a gap in generation and in the thinking. So I missed that whole hype of through this, through that, blah, blah, blah. Because for me, it was just, a bunch of fucked up music that I love, but I didn't have any other thoughts about it. It was all personal. And then all of a sudden I come as an old guy. I mean, I joined Dark Fortress on my 34th birthday. So I was long over all that stuff, I got into this band that my friends were in, and I was like, okay, cool, let's have some fun. And then only later realized that at the time, it was 2007, 2008, it was also the sort of the highlight of this certain hype about all the old murder stories and all this bullshit, man. I was a little bit shocked how orthodox the whole genre is trying to be with these young people of today, I was like, what is this bullshit? I really didn't get it. So I then realized, because every time there's a new album, of course you do interviews like we are doing now, and for some years there was always the question, how does Dark Fortress relate to black metal from the early 90s from Norway? And I was like, yeah, not. I mean, we are from Bavaria. We're from the Alps. If you want to destroy a church, you've got to bring a fucking wrecking ball, because they're made from stone. I mean, it's not the same thing. And we're just these dudes. We like, we have a fucked up taste. We like this fucked up stuff. But for the rest, that's freaking it. So what annoyed me is that people, instead of listening to what we're actually doing, automatically assume that we are doing this because some asshole stabbed some other asshole 20 years ago in Norway. And I mean, that was what started to get on my tits after a while, because I was like, hey, okay, just, listen to our stuff before you send us your stupid questions.
Yeah.
And this hype somehow really got on my nerves a little bit. I wrote a song about it as well.
I can totally understand, because I remember those days in the 90s when there was this true versus false kind of a setting, and also later when I had already found lots of bands beyond Nordic region, and there were still a lot of people like having patches of like Norwegian flag, the flag as an inverted cross kind of a thing, like only Norwegian is real, and like what the fuck? I even remember certain Norwegian bands, not gonna name call them, but saying on TV like early 2000s, like we cannot take black metal to the United States, and I was like, what the fuck? There has been black metal for like more than a decade, and suddenly you are bringing your Norwegian culture there and like trying to preach the choir.
But I get it because. Just one sentence.
Yeah.
I mean, I think these emotions, they belong to somebody who's 20 years old.
Maximum.
Between 15 and 25, let's say. And I was exactly like that. It was just, for me, it was Bay Area thrash metal, and later Voivod and whatever. But I wasn't exactly the same mindset, so I totally get it. It was just that as some old fart that has been around for like 500,000 years doing metal, I just found I couldn't relate to that. Completely artificial, unnecessary conflict.
Exactly.
But what I wanted to say is, I mean, basically, I totally agree with everything you said. But I think nowadays it's not that narrow-minded anymore.
Yeah, people are now more understanding.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we're actually playing in Norway now.
I mean,
owls to Athens.
I was actually making a joke now that we're continuing this theme. I was actually saying that sometimes it feels still to this day, especially when you were playing there and there were not too much audience. I mean, there was like half packed, I think, compared to like later in the evening, like yesterday and day before that. When you would see like Gorgoroth and stuff like that, it was fully packed. But during your time, because you had quite an early time, people were just coming like, what is this band and all that stuff. And to me, it seems kind of even disrespectful in the sense like somehow, I'm gonna put it this way, shoot me if you have to, someone right there, but it seems like B-level Norwegian bands get like better treatment than A-level German bands in a way, because there is like not this Nordic stamp like. You know,
I mean, it's.
I'm not really complaining. It's Saturday. We play the main stage at Inferno Festival.
Yeah.
We've never. I mean, technically we've played one show in Norway so far, but there was a tiny festival on the west coast where we're like 50 people or something, really in a very remote place. But I mean, it's the first time that we're actually being invited to like the prestigious Inferno Festival. And, I take it as a good sign.
Definitely.
I mean, they could also could have put us in the small stage,
which would have really sucked for your level of experience and all.
But nevertheless, I mean, we just played the main stage at Inferno Festival on Saturday. Of course, I knew it's gonna be a bit difficult.
Yeah,
I expected it, and it was for sure not worse than my expectations. I'm satisfied with how things went, except for some
nervousness.
Some nervousness that probably nobody in the crowd really cared about.
Yeah, probably couldn't have noticed. But one question. Now that you mentioned that you've known these guys for 30 years, but you joined as late as 2007 or so, what took that so long for you to become part of the band?
Well, we had a singer before.
You should have stabbed him like, go away.
That was a little factor. The other factor was that the year that Dark Fortress got founded, which was in 1994, was the year that I left our common hometown in Bavaria to study music in the Netherlands. So the first years, I mean, I had seen the guys around, but I was busy also with something else. I studied classical music and flamenco, and my head was somewhere else. And there was always Slayer, but I wasn't, necessarily.
Was it bad timing, basically?
I wouldn't say it was bad. I think it's much better that I got into it later. Because had I been young and been there from the beginning, I would have had maybe illusions that, we're gonna be
big rock stars.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm actually glad how my life went, and that I didn't become famous at 20, but that nobody wanted to hear my band at the time, except for him and some friends, and that I had to go and study music properly and start another career, because it felt like by the time I joined, the bed was made. For me it was super convenient, because there was already a name, there was a bunch of albums, and I didn't have to start from zero like with everything else that I've always I've ever started.
That's true.
So that was great. And the other thing was, of course, that I always liked metal and extreme metal and everything, but as I said, I was not part of this second wave of black metal in any kind of way, because my head was totally somewhere else. So I wouldn't have been also, I guess, an obvious candidate, and it was just because I was such good friends with Victor and with our drummer, because we had another band together called Non-Euclid, that we were just talking, and if I remember correctly, we were just, walking to do groceries, and then one of you guys said, we're gonna need a new singer, and do you know somebody, this, that, and I think I in my memory I said it as a joke, like, if you want, I can try it out, because we knew each other as musicians and stuff, and to my surprise they said, yeah, and let's try it out, and if we like it, then you're the singer. And
beautiful story.
That's how it went.
Moving.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. So, what is Dark Fortress? I mean, it's the name of the band, but what does it even mean? I mean, before you answer, I mean, there are lots of ridiculous names. Sorry, Tolkien, Gorgoroth. Why do you need some Tolkienish place or Burzum and stuff like that? But also, what is Dark Fortress?
The meaning of the name.
Yes, why did you choose with that?
Well, I never chose it because I also joined the band in 2001.
But you need to know.
Well, I think when you come to our hometown, Landshut, there's one thing that you can see from very far away. It's a fortress on top of a hill, and I think that whole image of a dark fortress, of a stronghold against your enemies or against whatever, is a pretty strong picture, I think. Yeah. And I think when you grow up in that city under that impression and this, how the city looks, I could imagine that this was kind of an inspiration for the name. And I also know that I think the cover artwork of Satyricon first album, Dark Medieval Times,
which is horrible art, by the way.
Actually, it is.
It's really hard. I didn't realize as a teenager, but the more I've been staring at it, it's like drilling a hole in my brain, like, oh, it's so horrible. Now they got
a bit of a children's drawing. I know.
They have now reversion of it, which
nevertheless, I think it might have been a little bit of an influence also.
That's what Asvargur once also told me. And I mean, also they were like 15 at the time, right?
Yeah, I think Asvargur was 16.
And nothing wrong with getting inspired by something you love,
Yeah, totally.
And it's and if I may set the record straight, as far as I understand, because I wasn't there, but it is not that those guys like Dimmu Borgir, which can be translated to Dark Fortress, and said like, hey, let's also make a band and let's give it the same name, because at the time
we get that accusation all the time, and it's just
I haven't heard it in years.
But
the thing is that the fact is that when this band was founded, nobody knew about Dimmu Borgir.
I think they started like in 93 or something.
Something like that, pretty much the same
album
time.
In 94, 95 album.
Yeah.
So they were not a famous band back then.
Exactly.
And how stupid would that be to do that, It's, I mean, come on.
Well, actually, your name is, in my opinion, whatever it matters, it's a lot better though. Because at least it's more international and understandable. It kind of gives you a point like, okay, this is a metal band. It goes dark, this and that. Well, might sound a little bit of a cliche, but at least it kind of points to a right direction.
We cannot deny that.
Yeah, and there's no point. We're denying that because people will be anyway saying like, you're wrong.
We wouldn't choose this name now.
I guess.
All over again.
Yeah, but
now it would be just Fortress.
But that's not the worst idea. Honestly. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the lyrics. Plenty of albums out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The man.
So what kind of stories you want to?
I like you.
Lots of albums out, lots of ideas. You've been saying that about your various experiences and of course education and background and stuff like that. What makes you tick so that you want to write about it?
I try to. I mean, I was born with an overactive imagination, which allows me to work as a composer, kind of having to be creative every day. Somehow I got that. And so I've always been super interested in the worlds in the mind. Now I'm changing. I also start to discover the world outside, which can be super awesome and totally weird. But what makes me tick is that I try to go to the most interesting places I can in my imagination, and I try to go as far as possible. So if I have a beginning of an idea or a subject that interests me or something, like let's say the previous album before the last one was about living light, so sunlight that actually poisons you and changes the world, and you cannot do anything about it. Instead of, and this is my problem, instead of trying to keep it like clear so that everybody can understand it, I rather go as far as I can into I take it to the extreme in my head until I can see like a whole world kind of arising that I can write about. And then what interests me is, okay, imagine that this would be the case. What would that do to you? So it's about experiencing something that is off or apocalyptic or totally perverted or whatever. It's always, in black metal, it's very hard to separate it from the personal and emotional component. In death metal, it's easier. You don't have to have you don't have to identify with the persona in the lyrics, let's say. You can be as abstract as you want. In black metal, because the emotion is very important, you always have to tell it from the perspective of somebody that goes through something fucked up. So I try to go to the most fucked up or the most beautiful or the thing that impresses me the most, and I try to share that with people. Of course, that means that usually it's rather convoluted because you always have just a certain amount of lines to explain what you're doing. So in order to fit these worlds into songs, it becomes incredibly condensed. So in every line, usually something is really happening that you have to follow, and I don't expect from anybody to do the work and to know it all. And he said to me when I joined, if I may tell people, because I joined as a singer and I had to write lyrics and everything. He said, well, lyrics are there, so the singer doesn't just go la la la. And for many, I mean, I know it's not the whole truth, but you said that literally to me.
I did say that, but also joking.
Of course. And I get it. I mean, he's a smart man with a big brain, so it's not that's not all there is to it. But I'm also aware that you can't expect from everybody who just wants to listen to music to go through the whole trip that I go through when I write my lyrics. I'm completely okay with people ignoring it, and I try to make sure that at least the words have a sound and a rhythm, that even if you just get a word here and there, that it triggers the right associations, so that however deep or not you go into it, that you get the right feeling from it. But I also try to make sure that if somebody is so crazy or bored that they really go into it, that there's a lot to discover in there. And that's, I mean,
like a different layer on top of the riffs and drums and everything.
Exactly. And there are, a good line of lyrics, I think, is one that makes you think, or maybe also even one that you don't completely understand immediately. It's like a lot of occult wisdom or poetry or whatever is also like that. You have to sort of chew on it for a little bit until one day you realize, like, oh, that's what he meant, and then some world opens. And if I can do that a little bit to some people, I'm super happy.
Okay, but why did you choose the language you're using? And let me give you a little bit of what I'm after here. Okay. Is that a lot of Norwegian bands decided to go for Norwegian, and I'm not fully buying that the only reason is that, hey, we speak our native language better than the rest, because, well, the whole music history would have been very, very different if that was the only reason. And also a lot of, I think, Swedish bands also kind of did the same, but the farther you go from this Nordic region, the more common English becomes. But there are lots of also German bands doing full German, but you're not one of those.
No. We made an attempt, or I made an attempt for a song that never got released. I think it was from the Island sessions. No, from the Venereal Dawn sessions, because we already had too many long songs. And on Venereal Dawn, I wanted to experiment exactly with other languages, because it becomes a little bit boring if you are forced to use the same words time and time and time again. Like, there are not so many synonyms for death or time or space or words that they are using all the time, and I try to prevent that I get bored by what I'm making. So I like languages, I like the different sounds. So on that album I experimented, and I thought, well, why the hell not to try for once our own language? And we I think we have a bit of a minority complex about it because, of course, the German language is famous for being extremely poetic, and we have
and also very like angry language.
If you use it right, but the way we grew up is that we didn't believe that our language could actually deliver, could actually sound cool. Mm-hmm. Plus, we are like ethnically, we in the South, we are like Austrians, that's what belongs together, and we have a pretty strong accent. So it is so strong that you can almost call it a different language, because if we go to Frankfurt, which isn't that far in the north of Germany, it's actually pretty south, but already there, people don't understand me. Our drummer is from more northern part of Bavaria, and already he doesn't know some words that we are using every day. So it's a bit of a pickle anyway. Plus, High German, you wouldn't catch us singing in High German, I think, so easily if we don't like really do our best. And so maybe we feel we would have to be extra successful or careful with it. Plus, one difference between us and the Scandinavian bands is that in Scandinavia there is what I would call a more or less healthy nationalism, which is not necessarily against other countries, but just people celebrating their own country, their own history, their own culture, their own language, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that if you're German...
I know where this is leading, and now I'm going to have a set of questions. Okay, before that, however, I want to talk a little bit about that, because until we go to that direction, I wanted to talk about, you mentioned that you have to have a very condensed set of lyrics, and sometimes that, of course, might affect how you write songs. I mean, when you create parts of guitar and all that stuff, and what I understand, you are one of the leading sense in creation of riffs and melodies, and you have that strong lead guitar thing going on, which is very defining. Do you have to battle against lyrics like, okay, I need to create more, or like more like this, I have more time to create more wonderful leads and guitar melodies because this guy has so much words to use? Do you ever encounter like that?
No, I don't think we are battling. No. Like most of the time, the music is there first, and then, like for example, with the last album, we were actually talking about the songs and also like what I wanted to express, or like the emotions that I feel about the music, and how we could put that into lyrics. But it's more like with when I write music, sometimes I have a very clear idea of how the vocals should be, or like how the rhythms should be, or also the melodies, and sometimes I'm just like, yeah, you know what, that's gonna be the verse and that's gonna be the chorus, but you can do it either way. You can do it like that or that or that, and then Florian is pretty free with how he can write his lyrics, and sometimes there's a clear rhythmical structure already there, where I kind of insist it has to be that and that many syllables and kind of spread, because there are also songs where I don't know, for example, Pulling at Threads, I think I had this melody first while I was writing the song. And
do one more time, that Maniac.
No.
Sorry, I had to say it, but I get it. It's your tools.
I don't think it's not a struggle. I think it's a very, very good and fruitful cooperation.
And that's why you're the captain.
Yeah, but I couldn't do it without him. I mean,
of course.
I think I would be a shitty lyricist.
Okay, that's an interesting coming for that smart guy. I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
No. I mean,
he's right.
We're teasing you.
No. I seriously mean I'm a shitty lyricist, because the thing is, I mean, writing lyrics is also a form of art. Or it should ideally horrible. Be, because
it's horrible art. I hate it as a vocalist myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sad when you just make some meaningless words, so in order that you don't have to make la la la, like the topic before. I mean, I appreciate it if there's actually something really meaningful. Yeah. And if you want to create art, you have something to. There needs to be an inner urge to express yourself through that art. I mean, I'm not ever gonna be a good painter because I never had the urge. To express myself through painting. I absolutely had the urge to express myself through music.
Yeah, and that kind of shows.
When I was a little child, before I was even able to play an instrument, I always had music in my head, and I thought like, well, if there would be some kind of device how I could put that what I'm hearing, if I could somehow let that out, that would be amazing. So I always had that urge. I never felt the urge to express myself through lyrics. It's a different art form. I never had the urge. And I think if you don't really want to do it, you're not. You might do something that is okay, but you will not create something that is really deeply meaningful. Because if you want to say something, you have to have something to say.
I'm kind of trapped by that idea.
Yeah.
Really.
And I think I never really felt that urge to express myself as lyricist. And I would probably have to struggle very hard, and I would probably be able to come up with something that is okay. But I'm glad that I'm having somebody who is really
Yeah, it
good
sounds
at
like
that.
you really have some kind of a marriage made in hell or heaven. I don't know which one you prefer. But now we're gonna touch the topic, because you said that all questions are pretty much okay. And now that you opened the door, I just kind of have to slide in. And that's the very topic, because I've been praising this, preaching that about a lot of, because I kind of hate it, but it's kind of like stuff that we cannot even avoid. You mentioned that this healthy sense of nationalism is kind of allowed in certain countries. Definitely, Sweden can have the 3 kronor, the kind of a 3 crowns thing, and they can celebrate the Carolina age when
they all like you know, the Sweden final countdown and
exactly and ABBA and all everything. They're pretty fine with it. Norwegians have taken it a little bit further. They can have Norwegian flags and whatever. Like everywhere, they can even can go on stage and put a Norwegian flag on stage. But you can probably imagine that Finland and Germany are, in a sense, in a kind of same place. That if we would, like any Finnish band, would put a Finnish flag as a backdrop, like they would be called outright right-wing Nazi bands.
And I would like that in Finland, really?
Yes, and that is kind of a really crazy, because you're not basically allowed to have this kind of say, national romanticism. I'm not a romantic person, so I don't really give a fuck. But I mean, if you take it
what's
that
the
beyond
historical background with that in Finland? I mean, you didn't start 2 world wars. I mean,
I think it might have something to do that Finland, allied with Germans for a while, and it might have something to do, especially with the 90s when there was the skinhead movement and all that stuff. So we had our share of neo-Nazis back in the days, and nowadays when people are polarizing things, like it's like only left and right. Like there's nothing between, even though that's not
too much polarized.
Nowadays, so people are moving these goalposts like crazy person. So and that's why some festivals and events even get cancelled, because people are so sensitive that whatever you do in a little bit of a weird ways, sometimes they're getting like stamped. Like as it was 1940s again. Which brings to the actual question here is like that I could imagine that if you did that with the German flag, like, hey, let's go a little bit national romantic trip here, and people would be like shooting you on stage, basically, like metaphorically.
Well, that did change, I have to say, and for some bizarre reason. Me as a German being in Holland, where it's also laden. If I moved to a city that was totally destroyed by my ancestors, let's say, Rotterdam, like completely. So if people there, especially older people, don't like Germans, I mean, I cannot blame them. And honestly, to me personally, everything I'm saying is really personal. The word German never meant anything to me personally, like in a sense of identifying with it, and that's just who I am. I like things I don't know. I like other countries, other cultures, other languages. The more it's mixed, the better, and the more I feel at home in it, because I felt all my life, I mean, I had a nice life and I was loved and everything, but I always felt I'm a weirdo. The dominant feeling of growing up there in Bavaria, but would have been the same anywhere else, was that I don't belong, I don't fit. And I think a lot of metalheads can relate to this, because we are like a people. Actually, I find this a really beautiful idea, which a classical conductor once said, like, oh yeah, you metal guys, you're like a people without a country. And it's true, because it doesn't matter where you come in the world. You see somebody in a metal shirt,
we all know that it's kind of a brotherhood kind of a thing.
Exactly. So we can relate to this, and we know this about each other. So that's also why it's cool to play this music wherever, because you know that wherever you are, they enjoy it just as much as you. So this is my let's say my ideological background is I'm a Babylonian, mix it all up. I know I'm a Bavarian, I know I'm a metalhead, but I have a lot of criticism about both these things. But I can identify with them in the sense that I know I am that. If I like it or not, I cannot deny that I came out of there. But because we have a bit of a weird place within Germany, also culturally, the word German was not something easy to relate to, and much more importantly, this is I think an important point. I think one of the few positive outcomes of the disaster of the Second World War and the obvious worldwide disaster of exaggerated nationalism is that I feel that, if anything, in Germany we managed to overcome that a little bit. I mean, partly because it has a huge renaissance in all countries, and Germany included. It's a fucking disease.
It's kind of a global thing, a renaissance of like right wing,
but
nationalism, or like, I don't find the right word now, like populism.
And the thing is that as a German, you don't. At least when I was growing up, you don't walk around and say, like, "I'm proud to be a German," because at the time. It's not that there's anything wrong with being proud of your country, even if it's Germany, but when I grew up, the only people saying this were the neo-Nazis.
Exactly.
Because everybody else was sort of shy about it, because obviously...
Like a kind of apologetic even.
Exactly, yeah. And this might have a factor also in how how my mind developed, that I was always looking somewhere else because I couldn't really relate to this thing, and plus you get force-fed the whole, Nazi stuff and Second World War in school, in history, like it doesn't end. So by the time you finish high school, you're like, I don't want to hear about this shit anymore. Leave me alone already. I got it, okay?
Yeah.
So I started seeing this as a positive thing, actually, that I think it is possible to like who you are, where you're from, what you're speaking, what your own culture is, where you're from, and still enjoy everything else and be open to everything else. And what annoys me no end is the implication that for you to like your own country, it automatically has to mean that you hate everybody else. So that it's basically
that's kind of a weird
xenophobia.
Thing.
And I would love these two things to finally get separated. Like patriotism, I hate the word patriotism because so many idiots call themselves patriots, but I truly believe there's nothing wrong with liking where you're from and liking your own country and liking your own culture. What I don't get is, how does that automatically imply that everybody else has to die or that everybody else is shit? And this is why I hate nationalism. It's not because I hate if somebody likes where they are. It is because of this sort of hidden or not so hidden implication that because I like us, it automatically means that you guys are worse. Because I think the root of all evil is when somebody thinks they're better than everybody else.
Yeah, the kind of elitism in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, of course there are differences between things and between people, but in general, we are all the same pieces of shit.
There's a martial art thing that's related to my background, and there's this knife fighting discipline where they say, we all bleed the same. Because in essence, when you get stabbed, I think Weakerness knows this pretty goddamn well, we all bleed the same. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, whatever your skin tone is, whatever your culture, ethnicity, etc., we all bleed the same, we all die the same, and there is nothing more like 24 hours. Probably Elon Musk would have so much money that he could probably afford 25th hour, but for the rest of us, it's gonna be the fucking same, So I understand very well that you kind of like, but I would definitely hate everybody else if everybody else had like 5 hours and all. Fuck, I have only 24. Like, fuck that shit.
It's like, why do you even care? Why do you define yourself through what others approve of or not? That's besides the point of living, I think, honestly, and.
But you know what this reminds me? We're actually a bunch of hippies here, and the people are going to kill us for being too nice and liberal and all that stuff. So we need to change subject. Okay. Before we end up talking like 2 hours and all, I'll try to steer us towards the closure and also we get to see more bands and like that. Yeah. This is one of my favorite questions. I don't know why, but I always try to think like there are people in the audience watching this interview right now and figuring out like, okay, I don't know this band enough. Maybe they haven't heard a single song or anything like that. And then I want to know if you could recommend something to start with. And don't say the recent one, because it's always the artist, like our latest album is the best one because we're evolved as a musician and blah, blah, blah. So if we remove that from the equation, what kind of, it can be a song or an album, which part of Dark Fortress they should start their listening career with?
Well, the new album.
Fuck off, remove.
No, okay. Let me try to give you a serious answer. I think pulling at threads from the last record is a good thing to get into, because we deliberately choose that song as a first single because I think it's the shortest condensed thing of what we're doing. It's metal, it's really aggressive, but it's also atmospheric, and all in 3 minutes. It was the first time we did it in such a short time.
Wow,
so
3 minute song by Dark Fortress.
That's like 3 minutes and 10. If you want maybe an easy start to get into the band, I would probably recommend Eidolon. Because it's like, some people were throwing at us, that's easy listening black metal. I think it's just very clearly structured and understandable, but it's a good album to start with. And yeah, but other than that, I think if you want to just pick out one song, I would maybe say, listen to Pulling at Threads and Isa from the latest record.
Now you have been removed one answer by your friend. So what would you recommend apart from these two?
Probably the opposite. I would say check out Venereal Dawn, the track, because it's a universe in itself. And if you like that one, you're probably going to like the rest as well.
All right.
But I have to tell you, I'm the worst person in the world to judge what everybody wants. So
that's why I keep asking this question, because it's kind of annoying to challenge the band to reveal their favorites.
No, but I know this. I'm not ashamed of it. But it's for me, it's always about the content and what makes me feel most proud to be part of this band. And there are many things, and I don't want to put any song or album above any of the other ones. But I feel with this song Venereal Dawn, it's 11 minutes long. It's like
very easy to start with, indeed.
Yeah, but it's like, why not start with the furthest we went into that direction? So I actually do both. Listen to Pulling at Threads, it's the most short and condensed. Listen to Venereal Dawn for the other extreme, and then try to find...
Then you figure it out, the big picture.
Exactly, and the rest happens in between these things. Or it would be On Fever's Wings, which is furthest away from the normal black metal, even though it's as dark as all the other stuff, I think. But check out a short and a long song, and don't watch the horrible Island video. I love the song, but fuck that fucking video.
Yeah, a lot of people watched it, which is of course nice, but the video.
It's I try, when we picked up the song again, I was like,
okay, next time you need to do some kind of a Rammstein video, which definitely gonna nail you.
Anything but that.
Okay. Now let's play a little bit foreseeing thing. What will happen in the next couple of years for you? What kind of plans? And I'm not saying next few weeks, because already by the time this video gets out, those weeks have passed. So let's plan a bit.
We are gonna do a tour in May next year, European tour.
Okay.
And that's how far I want to look.
What about new music, or what kind of plans you have for that?
No plans so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you could choose one place and one band to do a tour or a special gig with, what it would be?
I think the Fields of the Nephilim.
And where? Of all the places.
In the McMurdo dry valleys in Antarctica.
What about you?
I have no idea.
That's a very good time to put this interview to an end. These guys are getting restless, so am I. I think we all
hungry,
need hungry, and we need beers and stuff like that. Probably naked dancers as well, if we were talking about manual midgets. I don't know. We're gonna get something to do, and you have now your homework to do as well. That is to check out these songs mentioned. These guys are Dark Fortress. Check out their music. Go to see them live when possible, and if you don't like it, it's your problem, really. Can't say more than that. This is Rauta. This is Inferno Festival 2022, Oslo, Norway. good night, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. This was a really, really, really nice conversation.
An absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. I mean, we really should have beers later on.
Yeah, and next time, more curve.